Hello dear students, welcome to the new session of the Sale of Goods Act 1930. This is the first lecture regarding the Sale of Goods Act 1930, and here we are going to discuss what is the Sale of Goods Act, what is the contract of sale, what is the subject matter of the contract of sale, and what are the characteristics of the contract of sale, what are the difference between the sale and agreement to sell. Okay. Let us start the history of the Sale of Goods Act 1930. And before that, what is the concept of the Sale of Goods Act? The Sale of Goods Act, which was established in India 1930 as part of the sales transactions. Normally, the business persons are entering into the sales transaction, and which is governed by the Sale of Goods Act 1930. Which is the most important types of contract of the law of India, contract law of India. Indian Contract Act specify that the Sale of Goods Act is very important for the business transactions and the sales. India's sales relate to the transactions record ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് authentic ആയിട്ട് നമ്മൾ യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ആക്ട് ആണ് Sale of Goods Act. It's a perform, the business transactions perform ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് ഇൻഡിവിജ്വൽ ആണെങ്കിലും ആരാണെങ്കിലും ബിസിനസ് ട്രാൻസാക്ഷൻസോ ഇൻഡിവിജ്വൽ ട്രാൻസാക്ഷൻസോ പെർഫോം ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് സെയിൽസുമായിട്ട് റിലേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന എലമെന്റ്സ് റെക്കോർഡ് ചെയ്യേണ്ടതായിട്ട് വരും. ആ ട്രാൻസാക്ഷൻസ് റെക്കോർഡ് ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് ഒതന്റിക് ആയിട്ട് ഇന്ത്യൻ കോൺട്രാക്ട് ആക്ടിൽ സ്പെസിഫൈ ചെയ്യുന്ന ലോ ആണ് സെയിൽ ഓഫ് ഗുഡ്സ് ആക്ട്. Okay, which was established in 1930. And every individual, whether the legal, professional or common man who deal with this transaction of the goods regularly must understand the important terms in the contract of sales. കാരണം നമുക്ക് ആരാണെങ്കിൽ തന്നെ സെയിൽസുമായിട്ടുള്ള ട്രാൻസാക്ഷൻസ് റെക്കോർഡ് ചെയ്യുന്ന വ്യക്തികളാണെങ്കിലും ചെയ്യുന്ന വ്യക്തികളാണെങ്കിലും ഒരേപോലെ തന്നെ മനസ്സിലാക്കേണ്ട ഏറ്റവും ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള റൂളാണ് സെയിൽ ഓഫ് ഗുഡ്സ് ആക്ട് 1930. The Sale of Goods Act, which was emerged in India from the Great Britain. Great Britain എന്നാണ് ഈ കൺസെപ്റ്റ് ഇന്ത്യയിലേക്ക് വരുന്നത്. The Mercantile Law was formed on the 1st July 1930 when India was under the British Raj. നമുക്കറിയാം സ്വാതന്ത്ര്യത്തിന് മുമ്പ് തന്നെ ഈ ആക്ട് എസ്റ്റാബ്ലിഷ്ഡ് ആണ്. ആസ് പെർ ദ ബ്രിട്ടീഷ് രാജിൽ ഈ ആക്ട് എസ്റ്റാബ്ലിഷ്ഡ് എന്ത് ചെയ്തു, അതിനുശേഷം ആഫ്റ്റർ ദ ഇൻഡിപെൻഡന്റ് lot of the amendments are introduced. And this law was created or the based on the Sale of Goods Act of Great Britain 1893. ബ്രിട്ടന്റെ സെയിൽ ഓഫ് ഗുഡ്സ് ആക്ടിനെ ബേസ് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഈ ആക്ട് എസ്റ്റാബ്ലിഷ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുള്ളത്. The law applicable all over the India except the Jammu and Kashmir. This law normally established in India but is not applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. Okay. So that is one of the important element of the Sale of Goods Act, Indian Sale of Goods Act. Okay, and here we're discussing one of the important elements. What is the relevance of sales? The people in business are often entering into the contract of sale to sell the commodity. The basic intention for this act is to control the sale transactions in the business. Therefore, we are introduced this Act Sale of Goods Act in 1930, which was based on the Britain Sale of Goods Act 1893, and this law is applicable all over the India except Jammu and Kashmir. But recently, we have a lot of the issues regarding Article 372, and after this issue, this rule has become questioned. There is a lot of relevance for this. Sale of Goods Act in the current scenario. As per the Sale of Goods Act 1930, the two important elements is one is the contract of sale, another one is agreement to sell. Here we are discussing what is a contract of sale and what is the agreement to sell. As per Section 4 of the Sale of Goods Act specified what is a sale and agreement to sell. And here the contract of sale, what is the contract of sale? That means sale. And at the contract of sale, the seller transfer or agree to transfer the property and goods to the buyer for a price. And normally you are the seller, transfer and agree to transfer property and goods to the buyer for a price. The term is known as the contract of sale. There may be a contract sale between one part of owner to another part. That means you are the seller and the buyer. And this contract may be conditional or absolute. I suppose it's a conditional contract. It means the term is known as agreement to sell. So what is agreement to sell? When a contract of sale, the property and goods is transferred from seller to buyer. The contract is called sale. That means contract of sale. But the transfer of the property and goods is to take place for a future time or sometime there is subject matter thereafter fulfilled. The contract is called agreement to sell. So listen, the transfer of the property and goods to take place at a future time or subject to some condition thereafter fulfilled, the contract is called agreement to sell. So that's both are different. Sale is simply that's a transferring your the goods to the seller to the buyer. But its agreement to sell is quite different because we have established some future time and certain conditions are fulfilled. The contract is called the agreement to sell. So both are the different. One is the contract of sale, another one is agreement to sell. The agreement to sell is specified or the based on the certain conditions fulfilled on the future time. The term is known as the agreement to sell. But the agreement to sell become a sale when the time is elapsed. കാലാവധി കഴിഞ്ഞ് നിങ്ങൾ അത് എക്സിക്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് and agreement of sell become the sale. അത് സെയിൽ ആയിട്ട് മാറാം. That is a contract to sale ആയിട്ട് മാറാം. Or the conditions are fulfilled subject to which property and goods to be transferred. ആ കാലാവധി കഴിയും ആ സബ്ജക്ട് കണ്ടീഷൻസ് ഫുൾഫിൽ ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ അഗ്രിമെന്റ് ടു സെൽ എന്ന കൺസെപ്റ്റ് എന്തായിട്ട് മാറുന്നു? സെയിൽ ആയിട്ട് മാറുന്നു. സോ ദർ ഇസ് എ ക്ലോസ് കണക്ഷൻ ബിറ്റ്വീൻ ദ സെയിൽ ആൻഡ് ദ അഗ്രിമെന്റ് ടു സെൽ. അപ്പോൾ ഈ അഗ്രിമെന്റ് ടു സെല്ലും കോൺട്രാക്ട് സെയിലും കുറച്ച് വ്യത്യാസമുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ ഈ അഗ്രിമെന്റ് സെല്ലിന്റെ കാലാവധി സ്റ്റിപ്പുലേറ്റ് കണ്ടീഷൻസ് സാറ്റിസ്ഫൈ ചെയ്ത് നിങ്ങൾ ആ ഹാൻഡ് ഓവർ ചെയ്യുന്ന ഡേറ്റിൽ അത് വീണ്ടും എന്തായിട്ട് മാറുന്നുണ്ട്? അഗ്രിമെന്റ് ടു സെല്ലിനെ കോൺട്രാക്ട് ഓഫ് സെയിലിലേക്ക് കൺവേർട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. ഓക്കെ, so that is the logic of the contract of sale and agreement to sell. So once again, and what is the contract of sale? The contract of sale, that means seller transfer or agree to transfer property and goods to the buyer for the price. The term is known as the contract of sale. And agreement to sell, and here the transfer of the property and goods to take place at a future time or subject to some condition thereafter fulfilled. The contract of sale is agreement to sell. The term is known as a contract is called agreement to sell. The transfer of the property and goods to take place at a future time or subject to certain condition thereafter fulfilled. The contract is called agreement to sell. But your agreement to sell become the sale when the time is elapsed or the conditions are fulfilled subject to which the property and goods to be transferred, and your agreement to sell become the contract of sale. So these are two important elements of the sale of goods in 1930. That is, one is the contract of sale, another one is agreement to sell. Okay, and what are the essential features of contract of sale? The contract of sale, there's two important persons. One is the buyer, another one is the seller. The two parties, that's the first important characteristics of contract of sale is two parties, the buyer and the seller. The seller is transferring his possession to the buyer, transferring the goods to the buyer. So two important persons, one is definitely buyer, another one is definitely seller. And second one is a contract. The contract must be satisfy all the essential elements of the valid contract. So what are the essentials of valid contract? There is a agreement between two persons and there is a written format. So a contract, all the elements of the valid contract. That is the second characteristic of the contract of sale. There is a contract. The contract must be valid contract. And third one is the movable goods. We are applying the contract of sale based on the movable goods. The goods are specified as movable goods. Immovable goods are not categorized under the contract of sale. So one of the important characteristics is the movable goods. It's purely based on the movable goods. And fourth one is transfer property. The seller must transfer the possession, ownership to the buyer. The transfer of the property is one of the important elements. The ownership of the property must be transferred from you, the seller, to the buyer. This is the fourth characteristics. And fifth one is the price. It's purely based on the price. The sale of money must be paid or promised. The transactions between the buyer and seller based on certain price. The price is another important characteristic of the contract of sale. And another one is a formality. This formality is very essential. According to Section 5 of the Sale of Goods Act, sale made by offer to buy or sell goods for a price and acceptance of such offer. One person is offering, another person is accepting. There is an offer and acceptance. That's a formality as per the Section 5. Section 5 will be remember formalities in common study. Very important element. Section 5 will remember ഒരാളുകൾ പ്രൈസ് കൊടുക്കുന്ന മറ്റാളെ പ്രൈസ് ആക്സെപ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നു. ആ ഓഫർ ആൻഡ് ആക്സെപ്റ്റൻസ് വളരെ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻറ്റ്. ദാറ്റ്സ് വൺ ഓഫ് ദി ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻറ്റ് ഫോർമാലിറ്റീസ് ഓഫ് ദ കോൺട്രാക്ട് ഓഫ് സെയിൽ. ആൻഡ് സെവൻത്ത് വൺ ഈസ് എ ഫോം. ദ ഫോം ഈസ് അനദർ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻറ്റ് എലമെന്റ് ഓഫ് ദ കോൺട്രാക്ട് ഓഫ് സെയിൽ. A contract of sale may be in the written or by word or implied from the conduct of the parties. നമുക്ക് റിട്ടേൺ ഫോമാറ്റിലായിരിക്കാം ഓർ ഐദർ വേർഡ്സ് മൗത്ത് ആയിരിക്കും. നോർമലി റിട്ടേൺ ഫോമാറ്റ് ആണ് കുറച്ചും കൂടി വാലിഡ് ഫോമാറ്റ് എന്ന് പറയും. അപ്പോൾ ഇത്രയും സ്പെസിഫൈഡ് എലമെന്റ്സ് നമുക്ക് എവിടെ കാണാൻ സാധിക്കും? കോൺട്രാക്ട് ഓഫ് സെയിലിൽ കാണാനായിട്ട് സാധിക്കും. വൺ ഓഫ് ദ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻറ്റ് എലമെന്റ്, ടു പാർട്ടീസ്. There is a buyer and there is a seller. And second one is a contract. That means all the characteristics of the essential valid contract. And third one is the movable goods, the goods which are specifically movable from one place to another place. The transfer, that means you have the transfer ownership. The ownership must be transferred to the seller, to the buyer. Price, the price must be quoted as per the transactions. And there is a formality. According to Section 5, there is an offer and acceptance. Offer for the price and acceptance. And seventh one is a form. The form is most important element. There is return, word, mouth or implied forms are used for the contract of sale. Okay, these are the important characteristics of the contract of sale. And after that, what are the subject matter of the contract of sales? It's very important, the subject matter. And subject matter, there is three important goods. One is existing goods, another one is a future goods, third one is a contingent goods. What is existing goods? As per the contract, നമുക്കറിയാം കോൺട്രാക്റ്റിലേക്ക് വരുമ്പോൾ, കോൺട്രാക്ട് സെയിലിലേക്ക് വരുമ്പോൾ മൂന്ന് തരം ഗുഡ്സ് അവിടെ കാണാൻ സാധിക്കും. വൺ ഈസ് എക്സിസ്റ്റിംഗ് ഗുഡ്സ്, അനദർ വൺ ഇസ് എ ഫ്യൂച്ചർ ഗുഡ്സ്, തേർഡ് വൺ ഈസ് എ കണ്ടിജന്റ് ഗുഡ്സ്. ആൻഡ് വാട്ട് ഈസ് എക്സിസ്റ്റിംഗ് ഗുഡ്സ്? The goods owned or possessed by the seller at the time of the contract of sale. The goods owned or possessed by the seller at the time of the contract of sale, the term is known as the existing goods. This is a very important element. The goods owned or possessed by the seller at the time of the contract, അത് ഓൺ ചെയ്യുന്ന പൊസസ് ചെയ്യുന്ന സെല്ലറാണ് അറ്റ് ദ ടൈമിൽ, അതിനെ പറയാം എക്സിസ്റ്റിംഗ് ഗുഡ്സ് എന്നാണ് പറയാം. ദ ത്രീ ടൈപ്സ്, നോർമലി സ്പെസിഫിക് ഗുഡ്സ് ഉണ്ടായിരിക്കാം, അസർടൈൻഡ് ഗുഡ്സ് ഉണ്ടായിരിക്കാം, അൺഅസർടൈൻഡ് ഗുഡ്സ് ഉണ്ടായിരിക്കാം. Okay, what is the specific goods? These goods which are identified, agreed upon the time of the contract of sale is made. The term is known as your specific goods. The goods which are identified, agreed upon the time of the contract of sale. That's not a specific. Others agreed ഇതിലാണ് identified, agreed upon the time of the contract sale ആണെങ്കിൽ as per section 214 specific goods ആണ്. And what is the ascertained goods? These are the goods which are identified by the parties. Identify the subsequent to the information of the contract sales. കോൺട്രാക്ടേഴ്സിന്റെ സബ്സിക്വന്റ് ഇൻഫോർമേഷന് ശേഷമാണ് അത് ഐഡന്റിഫൈ ചെയ്യുന്നതെങ്കിൽ അതിനെ പറയാം അസർടൈൻഡ് ഗുഡ്സ് ആണ്. ദ ഐഡന്റിഫിക്കേഷൻ ടേക്ക് പ്ലേസ് അറ്റ് ലെറ്റർ ഡേറ്റ്. പിന്നീടുള്ള സമയങ്ങളായിരിക്കും അത് ഐഡന്റിഫൈ ചെയ്ത് വരുന്നുണ്ടായിരിക്കും. അങ്ങനെയാണ് അതിനെ പറയാം അസർടൈൻഡ് ഗുഡ്സ് എന്ന് പറയും. Then unascertained goods. These are the goods which are not specifically identified and agreed at the time of the contract sales. Contract sales നമുക്ക് ഐഡന്റിഫൈ ചെയ്യാനോ നോട്ട് സ്പെസിഫിക്കലി ഐഡന്റിഫൈ ചെയ്യാൻ സാധിച്ചിട്ടില്ലെങ്കിൽ നമുക്കത് പറയാം അൺഅസർടൈൻഡ് ഗുഡ്സ് ആണ്. മറ്റത് അസർടൈൻ ചെയ്യാൻ സാധിക്കും, ക്യാൻ ബി ഐഡന്റിഫൈഡ് ആൻഡ് നോട്ട് സ്പെസിഫിക്കലി ഐഡന്റിഫൈഡ് ആണെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് അൺഅസർടൈൻഡ് ഗുഡ്സ് എന്ന് പറയും. And these are three elements of the existing goods. So one is the specific goods. It's the goods identified, agreed upon at the time of the contract of sale. The term is known as specific goods. And another one is ascertained goods. These are goods which identify the parties subsequent to the information of the contract of sale, or the identification take place after a later date. The term is not ascertained, can be ascertained, identified. And third one is unascertained goods. These are the goods which are not specifically identified, agreed at the time of the contract or sale. That term is known as the unascertained goods. Okay, these are the subject matter. First subject matter is existing goods, and second one is future goods. What is the future goods? These goods which are to be manufactured or produced, acquired by the seller after the contract of sale is made. നമ്മൾ സാധാരണ കോൺട്രാക്ട് ഉണ്ടാക്കിയതിന് ശേഷമാണ് അത് നമ്മൾ മാനുഫാക്ചർ ചെയ്യുകയും പ്രൊഡ്യൂസ് ചെയ്യുകയും ചെയ്യുന്നെങ്കിൽ അതിനെ പറയുക ഫ്യൂച്ചർ ഗുഡ്സ് എന്നാണ് പറയുക. ദീസ് ആർ ദ ഗുഡ്സ് വിച്ച് ആർ ടു ബി മാനുഫാക്ചർഡ് or produced or acquired by the seller after the contract of sale is made. Listen, after the contract of sale is made, the term is known as the future goods. And third one is the contingent, which is based on certain contingency. The emergency. The contingent goods are this type of the goods, the acquisition of which by the seller depends upon the contingency. ഇവിടെ നമ്മൾ സെല്ലർ ആവശ്യങ്ങൾക്ക് അനുസരിച്ചാണ് ആ ഗുഡ്സ് വാങ്ങിക്കുന്നതെങ്കിൽ അതിനെ പറയുക കണ്ടീജൻസ് ഗുഡ്സ് എന്നാണ് പറയുക. വിച്ച് മേ ഓർ മേ നോട്ട് ഹാപ്പൻ. ചിലപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് ആവശ്യം വരാതിരിക്കാം. എ കോൺട്രാക്ട് സെയിൽ കണ്ടീജന്റ് ഗുഡ്സ് ഓപ്പറേറ്റ് ആസ് എൻ അഗ്രിമെന്റ് ടു സെൽ. an agreement to sell എന്നാണ് പറയുക. നോർമലി ഇത് അഗ്രിമെന്റ് ടു സെൽ ആയിട്ടാണ് നോർമലി കൺസിഡർ ചെയ്യുക. Okay, these are the three important subject matter of the contract of sale. One is the future existing goods, second one is the future goods, then third one is contingent goods. Existing goods means goods are processed by seller at the time of the contract of sale. Contract time on ചെയ്യുന്നെങ്കിൽ അതിൽ പറയാം existing goods എന്ന് പറയാം. Basically three category of existing goods. One is specific, ascertained and unascertained. Okay, and as specific means these goods which are identified, agreed upon the time of the contract of sale. And ascertained means these which are identified by the party. Unascertained means which not specifically identified and agreed of the contract of sale. So these are the three important elements of the existing goods. And there is a futures goods, and there is a future goods, and there is a contingent goods. Future goods, that means the goods. These are the goods which are to be manufactured or produced or acquired by the seller after the contract of sale is made. So listen, it's which are manufactured or produced after the contract of sale is made. Contingent goods depends upon the contingency. It may or may not be happen. Which goods it operate as an agreement to sell. Okay, these are the three subject matter relating with the contract of sale. And after that, what is the difference between sale and agreement to sell? We all discuss the term is a contract of sale and agreement to sell. As a contract of sale, there is the buyer and the seller. There is a relation between the buyer and seller. Seller agree to sell the possession ownership to the buyer. The term is known as the contract of sale. We already discussed as a contract of sale is a types of contract where the one party, that is a seller, either transfer the ownership goods to the another party, that is a buyer. The term is known as the contract of sale. But agreement to sell, there's quite different. It depends upon certain stipulations. In a contract of sale, whether it's actual sale is goods, it is known as a sale. Where it is the intention to sell the goods certain time, that's a future date. We already specify that the contract of sale is established after future date based on certain condition. The term is known as the agreement to sell. Okay, so there's two important elements. One is a sale, another one is agreement to sell. Both are different. Sale means you are purely transferring an ownership to the one person, another person, the seller to the buyer. That is contract of sale. Agreement to sell is quite different because it depends upon the certain conditions and the future date, some future time. That is agreement to sell. I'm discussing what are the basic differences between the sale and agreement to sell. The first difference on the point of the meaning, on the base of the meaning, if you sale, what is sale? There is when a contract of sale is exchange of goods, money from the one person to another person, immediately from the buyer to the seller to the buyer. When a contract of sale, the exchange of goods for money or consideration take place immediately. It is known as a sales. Okay, and here there is when a contract of sale, the parties to the contract agree to exchange the goods for a price on the future specified date. The contract is purely depends upon the future specified date. The term is known as the agreement to sell. The first difference, one is an immediate contract, another one is a future dated contract. So this is one of the first differences between the sale and agreement to sell. As a nature point of view, the sale is always absolute. The sale is absolute because it's immediate transactions, immediate delivery, immediate transaction taking place. But agreement to sell is a conditional because it's based on some future date, based on certain future date. The second is nature, and third one is a type of contract. It's an executed contract. Sale is always executed. The immediate delivery is always executed contract, and the agreement is an executory contract. That means it's specified in some future date. So there is an executory contract. And transfer risk. There is a risk. There is a risk is associated with the sale, but the agreement to sell, there is no risk because it's some future date. There is no risk. And title, in sale, the title of the goods transferred to the buyer with the transfer of the goods. We normally transfer the title to the buyer, but agreement to sell, the title of the goods remain with the seller. But in the agreement to sell, the title is remain with the seller, as there is no transfer of the goods. Immediate transfer is not executed. Immediate transfer is not included at time of the agreement to sell. So agreement to sell, the title of the goods remain with the seller, but the title is always transferred, and here the title is remaining with the seller. And right to sell, and here there is a buyer. The buyer, right to sell, buyer കാണും അവിടെ റൈറ്റ് വരുന്നത്. പക്ഷെ അഗ്രിമെന്റ് സെല്ലർക്കാണ്, കാരണം അവിടെ ടൈറ്റിൽ സെല്ലറുടെ കയ്യിലാണ്. ഇവിടെ നമ്മൾ സെല്ലർ ആർക്ക് കൊടുക്കും, മീൻസ് നമ്മൾ ടൈറ്റിൽ ആർ ഹാൻഡ് ഓവർ ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്, ശരിക്കും ബയർക്ക് കൊടുക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. ഓക്കെ, so there is a right to sell is focusing on the agreement to sell is a buyer, and here there is a based on the seller. Okay, there is another different right to sell is relating with the buyer. And another comparison regarding the consequence of the subsequent loss or the damage of goods. The damage of goods, the responsibility is remaining with the buyer, but here the damage of goods, here the responsibility is relating with the seller. As a sales point of view, the responsibility is the buyer, but as a agreement to sell point of view, the responsibility relating with the seller. And another one, tax. VAT is charged at the time of the sale. But VAT incorporated, the no tax is levied. But leave in the city, VAT tax on the implement VAT is charged at the time of the sale. And suitable breach of the contract by the seller, the buyer can claim the damages from the seller, and the proprietary remedy from the party to whom the goods are sold. ഇവിടെ നമുക്ക് ബയർക്ക് ക്ലെയിം ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും, ഡാമേജസ് ക്ലെയിം ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും, ആരുടെ സെല്ലറിന്റെ കയ്യിൽ നിന്ന് ക്ലെയിം ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് സാധിക്കും. ബട്ട് ഹിയർ ദ ബയർ ഹാസ് എ റൈറ്റ് ടു ക്ലെയിം ദ ഡാമേജ് ഓൺലി. ഇവിടെ നമുക്ക് ഡാമേജും ആൻഡ് ഓൾസോ പ്രൊപ്പറേറ്ററി റെമഡീസും ക്ലെയിം ചെയ്യാൻ സാധിക്കും. പക്ഷെ ഇവിടെ നമുക്ക് ഡാമേജ് മാത്രമേ ക്ലെയിം ചെയ്യാൻ സാധിക്കുള്ളൂ. ദ ബയർ can claim the damage from the seller and proprietary remedy from the party. Remedies നമുക്ക് ക്ലെയിം ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് സാധിക്കും, പക്ഷെ ഇവിടെ ഡാമേജ് മാത്രമേ ക്ലെയിം ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് സാധിക്കുള്ളൂ. Okay, and then after the right of the unpaid seller, the right of the unpaid seller, right to sue for the price. ഇവിടെ നമുക്ക് പ്രൈസ് ഡിപ്പെൻഡ്, റൈറ്റ് ടു sue for the damage. ഇവിടെ പ്രൈസിനെയാണ് ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ് വരാം. റൈറ്റ് ടു അൺപെയ്ഡ് സെല്ലർ, റൈറ്റ് ടു sue for the price, പ്രൈസിനെയാണ് നമുക്ക് ഇവിടെ ഫോക്കസ് ചെയ്യേണ്ടി വരാം. പക്ഷെ അഗ്രിമെന്റ് സെല്ല് നമുക്ക് ഡാമേജുകൾക്കാണ് ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ്, കാരണം ഇവിടെ ഡാമേജിനെ മാത്രമേ ക്ലെയിം ചെയ്യാൻ നമുക്ക് സാധിക്കുള്ളൂ. Okay, these are the basic differences between sale and agreement to sell. Listen, the first one, the sale is immediate contract, but the agreement to sell is some specified executed contract. That means future date. And another nature is absolute contract, this is conditional contract. As executed contract and executory contract. Transfer risk, the risk is yes, there is no risk, and title is transferred to the buyer, but there is no title is the title of the remaining with the seller. Right to sell, the right to sell is based on the buyer. Buyer has a right to sell the property, the seller has a right to sell the property, and there is a responsibility as per that. In damages point of view, the responsibility of the buyer, here the responsibility is the seller. The VAT is imposed in a case of the sale, and there is no tax levied, and the buyer claim the damages and the proprietary remedy from the parties, but here there is only for the damages. And the last difference, right of the unpaid is the right to sue for the price, and but is the right to sue for the damages. Okay, this is the basic difference between the sale and the agreement to sell. Okay, let me conclude. The first we discuss for the history of the Sale of Goods Act. The Sale of Goods Act, which was established in the 1930 and which is based on the British Sale of Goods Act 1893. The Sale of Goods Act is mainly for the transaction as part of the sale. It's created mainly for the monitoring the transactions of the sales. And one of the important element is a contract of sale and agreement to sell. A contract of sale is immediate transaction. The seller is transfer the property of the goods to the buyer for a specific price. Is known as the agreement to sell. Sorry, it is the contract of sale. But the agreement to sell, the seller transfer the property in goods to the buyer for a future time and some specific condition. Based specific condition, the contract is called the agreement to sell. An agreement to sell become the sale when the time is elapsed. So there is a definition regarding the contract of sale, the section 4, and these are essential features of the contract of sale. There's one is a two parties, and another one is a contract. That's essentials of all the valid contract. There's a movable goods, and there's a transfer property, there's a price, and there's a formality, and there is a form. There is a implied form return format is used for the contract of sale. And this subject matter, there is existing goods, and existing goods point of view, there is specific goods as a dine goods and unascertained goods. And future good, that means the manufacture produced acquired by the seller after the contract of sale is made. That's a future goods. And contingent goods means it's implied based on certain contingency. And what are the differences between the sale and agreement to sell? And there's a lot of difference between sale and agreement. Sale is always immediate contract, but the agreement to sell is some specified on the future date. And is absolute contract. The agreement to sell is a conditional, and there is all the right is focusing on the buyer here. An agreement is based on the seller, and the tax is VAT is imposed on the sale, but there is no tax is right. Right to unpaid seller, right to sue for the prices, but agreement to sell is right to sue for the damages. Okay, this is the basic difference with the sale and the agreement to sell. Okay, these are the important element of the Sale of Goods Act as per the 1930, and we have specified all the elements of the contract of sale and the agreement to sell. And contract of sale and agreement to sell, both are the different, and the contract of sale is focusing on the immediate transition, but the agreement to sell is based on some specific future date on based on certain conditions. Okay, these are the differences as per the sale and the agreement to sell. Okay, anyway, thank you so much, and thank you for watching me.